I think for the first time, I have a place where I can literally say whatever I want to say.
Yeah.
I can tell them what a horrible person I am. And yeah, they're just like, cool.
Yeah, they won't judge you.
It's pretty great.
Welcome to Unfiltered Creativity.
I'm Shri,
I am Monima.
and we are both on a journey to live a more creative life.
We are so excited and grateful to have you all along this ride.
This is an open space to have dialogues about productivity, mindfulness, art, music, personal growth, entrepreneurship, and many, many more. So today we're talking about a topic that's very important and near and dear to both of us, and that's therapy
Mental health.
and mental health. And today we're going to be doing a couple of different things. We're going to be talking about what mental health is, why it's important. We're going to go into a little bit about how mental health issues have been perceived and continue to be perceived. We're going to talk about our personal journeys and experiences with therapy and mental health, and what we think about who should be getting therapy and when should people be getting therapy, just our own opinion on some of this stuff. So it's a heavy, difficult episode, but we really wanted to tackle something that was important to us.
Yeah. Also, we're talking about how therapy can impact your creativity, or how creativity can impact your mental health. Okay, so let's dive into the topic.
So I don't know if you know this, Manima, but in Canada, where both of us live now, 1 out of 5 people will personally experience a mental health problem or illness.
1 out of 5 people?
That's a lot. And actually, 8% of adults will experience major depression at some point in their lives.
Yeah, that's not small statistics. And
No.
today, in the social media or technology culture, it has been proven to have a negative impact on all these mood disorders. Also, I think we've seen the steep rise in suicide rates during COVID because of the constant isolation.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
mental health issues have never been more important than they are today. And, with the social media, quick win technology culture, it's going to keep becoming a more important topic that we will have to face head on.
Yeah. So, what is your experience with mental health?
I personally have definitely dealt with anxiety, and I've not always been in the most stable place, especially because I'm not very good when it comes to high stress situations. So when things don't go good, I don't have the right coping skills. And also, there's been a lot of experiences that I think I've had, not necessarily because of my family, but just as a child in the Indian community who grew up in Canada. There's a lot of confusing messages that we got growing up. I think the culture in general has been, very interesting, and it's kind of made it okay for me to allow a lot of negative things to happen in my life. So, like, for example, just the culture that you give respect to elders no matter what. They could be evil, they could be bad, they could be whatever, but if they're old, you give them respect. And if they don't act in a nice way, if they're rude or discriminatory or abusive, then it's up to the child usually in that situation to accept it or ignore it and respect it and move on. And if the child reacts, it's disrespectful on the child. And I think that cultural thing that we have grown up with here, it kind of basically says in a sense that if there's somebody bad in your life that holds a position of respect or authority, it's up to us to accept it and deal with it and move on. It's not up to that person to change. And I think it allowed me to allow a lot of toxicity into my life. It made me exhibit some of the characteristics that I know are toxic looking at it, and I'm not proud of those characteristics. I recognize them. So it's been very interesting, and I've been learning a lot about myself over the last couple of years on where some of my actions are stemming from. How about you?
So about me, I haven't experienced any major mental health issues, but definitely when I've had anxiety, and I still have anxiety, I still get anxious. But I think it took me a pandemic to figure out what I have been going through. Not just figure out, but to identify that I have been going through something. Once I've understood that, yes, I am struggling with something, I need to get professional help, then I chose to go to professional help.
So how is mental health perceived, in India as a child growing up?
It is a taboo. It is still a taboo.
It's still taboo.
Of course it is. But I'm glad that there are people or celebrities in India who are coming out and talking about mental health. Example, Deepika Padukone, she has a foundation, Live, Laugh, Love. I think people need to perceive mental health just like the way they perceive physical, illness or something.
Yeah.
They're still not there yet, but they are on the way.
So have you found that, there's a generational difference? Like, is it taboo generally? Or is it that it's taboo with maybe our parents' generation or the baby boomers and millennials are changing it? Like what do you see happening there?
Yeah, I think you said it. It's a generational thing. It's the baby boomers. The problem is baby boomers.
Yeah. And I wonder if it's also it's probably their experience too.
Yes.
Because, we talked about this in an earlier episode, but they probably didn't have the luxury to even consider their mental health. They were surviving. And now that we are surviving, we're trying to figure out what's next, right? And it's interesting because even in Canada, I've seen a really huge shift on mental health in general. And when I was younger, definitely 100% very taboo subject.
Yeah.
And in fact, I can actually pinpoint times in my childhood where people that were very close to me or that I knew, kids, were probably going through something very traumatic from a mental health perspective. And it was never regarded or treated as such. It's like, oh yeah, she's just having a phase and she's quiet. And it's like, there's always something deeper there, and it's always worth to dig on some of those things at that point. And that was never even a consideration for conversation, because like you said, if you go to therapy, you have a psychological issue. Like, you are certified crazy.
Exactly.
So somebody who's really, really sad, or maybe a kid who's extremely antisocial, or a kid who every time faces a certain experience is crying, that's not seen as certified crazy. That's seen as like, it's okay, they'll get over it. And I think that's kind of where it starts, right? But one thing I am happy about is that in our Indian community anyways, I like to think that people of my generation, the millennials, the Gen Zs, they are super woke, are really bringing up some of these topics. So I recently told my dad in a part of a conversation that, this is what my therapist recommended, or this is what my therapist said. And I think I caught him by surprise a little bit.
Okay.
And I think he made it, if I remember correctly, he made a little joke about it. And then I just kind of was like, you know what? When I had a backache, I went to go see the chiropractor. And when I have a bad cold, I go to see the doctor.
Yeah.
So if I'm not able to cope with even just basic emotions, right? I told my dad, I'm like, right now I'm going there for maintenance. Like, I just want to go there. I want to air out my grievances of day to day and figure out better coping mechanisms. And there's somebody who's more skilled at me than doing that, right? Like, that person is skilled in communications, crisis management, managing, anxiety or mood swings or whatever small or large thing you're facing. Why wouldn't you go to an expert? Like, I don't know. I think it's, irresponsible to put that burden
on yourself,
right? Like, it's like I would never put my burden on myself to build the house I live in. We have engineers. And why am I going to put the burden on myself to figure out the best way for me to handle complex emotional situations when we have psychologists?
Yes, we have professionals who can help us.
who can help us. So I think, I had that conversation. He seemed cool. My dad is generally pretty cool, but I think having those conversations is what's going to slowly change things. I see it changing. And the one really good thing is, community aside, like Canada in general, the culture at work, right? And not just my place of work, like any place of work, mental health is a core, like a key competency. Companies pride themselves on having healthy employees. They offer benefits because we're in Canada. So you get your healthcare, you get your dentist, and you also get your support for a psychologist, and that's covered.
Wow.
And, like my company, amongst others, offers special sick days, mental health days that you can take, where if you just need a mental health day, you can take a mental health day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I think culturally our society is really changing to accept this. There's some really great initiatives, and I think we should link some of these down below on our YouTube. We'll link the Deepika Padukone's initiative, but here in Canada we have the Bell Let's Talk initiative. It's just an amazing way that people talk about mental health across multiple organizations, like across the country, and then they promote like different lines and hotlines that people can, and then they promote different lines and hotlines that people can reach out to. So I think there's some really great stuff happening from a community perspective.
The other day I've read some article on LinkedIn. It says that India is also beginning to include mental health under insurance policies. Like it's going to mandate it. Especially Indians, they do not have to worry about how expensive mental health care can be. They can rely on the insurance and get it. Get their sessions done.
What an amazing first step.
That is a major milestone.
Major. And that's how mindsets start shifting, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. When it comes to mental health, I think we need to remind ourselves and remember that this is not just something that people are making up. It's not just a feeling, right? Like this is scientifically proven, just like your appendix bursting. Like their brain does function in certain ways. Trauma has proven to have a impact on how the brain functions. So it is a scientific health issue, and we need to start treating it as such.
Yeah. And not just like it's a phase, it shall pass.
Yeah, and I actually sometimes wonder what it would be like if I actually had a safe place to air out my thoughts as a child, and I think the interesting conundrum of the South Asian community not really understanding mental health issues or whatever is that it's also the community that doesn't support an open communication between parent and child.
Yes.
So growing up, it's very stark because I grew up in a very multicultural society, and it was not a secret. It was a trend that I saw that it was the South Asian kids that was hiding everything from their parents.
Yeah.
So not only are they not getting a professional place to chat about their feelings and what's happening and who they're talking to at school and the person they had a fight with or bullying issues, all of that stuff, but they also often don't have a parent to go to with those types of problems.
There's no vent.
Yeah, there's no venting mechanism at all other than friends. And to be honest, if you think about it, like if you are a parent listening to this, do you really want the mental psyche of your child to be formed by some 12-year-old on a playground? And like, honestly, I think about how much of my life was shaped and influenced by conversations I probably had on a playground with a bunch of kids, and how wonderful it would have been to have different perspectives.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so both of us have gone to therapy, as we have, admitted here, but how did you find your journey through therapy? Like, have you seen any changes in yourself?
Yeah, it definitely did. Before going to therapy, I did not know what was bothering me. Now I know, I can pinpoint that, yes, this is the thing that's bothering me, and I act on it. So that's really important. My mind was a clutter. I had a lot of issues, as I mentioned, especially personal issues. The main issue was that being an elder one at home, I had always had this pressure on me. I mean, it wasn't an explicit pressure, but somehow it was always implied, or I was worrying, I was taking that without knowing subconsciously. And I didn't know that all of this was happening to me. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I have a sister. I'm the elder one. I'm fine. I'm singing and all of that stuff. But then, as I said, it took me a pandemic to realize that there is something going on. There is some pattern here. I've observed myself for a month or so and the pattern of my emotions. I've monitored my emotions every day, and I was like curious to go to a psychologist, and it's a she. My psychologist is a she, so I let her know everything I've shared in a non-judgmental space. I felt so safe and secure, and yeah, since then I think I've been in a very, very good zone and in a better place, because she gave me those tips and suggestions. She gave me all the toolkits I need. Okay, like when you feel this, when you're feeling underconfident, this is your toolkit. When you're feeling maybe emotional about something or stressful about something, this is the toolkit. So she equipped me with all these tools, and now it's up to me to use those tools, right? And I do, of course I do. If I do not use them, I would be a foolish person. I'm definitely in a better space, and I know how to conduct myself now.
I think that's such a great way to approach therapy. I think it's how I've approached it as well. But it's really like, you have to be comfortable sometimes getting called out. And you're really facing yourself in a very different light.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely something for a lot of older daughters out there, myself included, right? Like I think, and this is what's interesting about therapy and learning a little bit more and observing those patterns, is that there are patterns, there's very strong patterns, and there's always a root cause for the patterns in your life.
Yes.
The way you think, the way you act, right? And yeah, I think definitely for me too, a lot of my actions today are because I was the first child. I was the oldest child in like multiple generations on my mom's side. And there was a lot of pressure, directly, indirectly. And I think I delivered. I was a really good child overall, right?
Okay.
Temper aside, like I got good grades and I did what I had to do, and the perception was always very strong. And I think I still feel a lot of pressure to maintain the perception.
Yeah.
Like I'm afraid of, being vulnerable and putting negative, like saying bad things about myself, because it's like, no, I'm the role model to the community. Like I put that on myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot, and like there's other things I can pinpoint, right? The older child thing. There's a couple of patterns I see in my life of, repeated patterns of people treating me certain ways that change the way that I react to the way people treat me. Trust issues that I have that are deeply rooted in times that my trust was broken. So like, yeah, you can definitely see the patterns, and it can be difficult, but it's very emotional sometimes to almost face that. And I think it's better, like as much as I would love to confide in a friend or a family member, sometimes I don't feel comfortable confiding in friends and family members, because I don't talk to everybody about all the topics. And then when I confide in them, I'm not sure if I'm getting back what I actually need to hear. Right? Because they're either biased towards me emotionally,
Or judge.
or they have their own issues, and then, the topic is now about their issues, and then it's like, oh, are they judging me because I told them about this? And then you feel that guilt. And yeah, the cool thing about therapy, which I love, is like, I think for the first time, I have a place where I can literally say whatever I want to say. I can tell them what a horrible person I am. And yeah, they're just like, cool.
Yeah, they won't judge you.
It's pretty great. So how often are you seeing? Is it a regular schedule? Is it ad hoc?
So it was a regular schedule, but now it is not. My therapist was like, I think you're ready.
You graduated therapy.
I graduated therapy. She did give me some marks at the end in the last session, but it was a regular thing for about 3 months, I guess, in 2020. And one more important thing is I wanted to go to a therapy because I wanted to have a clean slate before moving to a new country. I was like, I can't carry all this baggage to a new country. I'm going to live alone. I can't take that risk. I can't do that to myself. And yeah, that's when I've actually that was like the trigger point. That was like the threshold I had. I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave India in another 3 months, so high time. I had a choice to pick between buying an iPhone and therapy.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like the money I got from my YouTube, my biggest ever paycheck from YouTube, back then in September 2020. And I was like weighing iPhone or therapy. I was like, well, screw iPhone.
You clearly you made a really bold decision for your own, like it was such a decision full of self-love. So I have so much respect for you for that.
Thank you.
Because it's very easy to get a big paycheck and buy an Apple product.
Yes,
as
it's very tempting.
We know I have done recently. I just got
did?
an iPad. But to take that and invest it in yourself and to have a clean slate to start something new is like very amazing.
Yeah.
And I think, the thing that we all need to remember is for us to accept love and accept the right relationships into our life and be available for good things, we have to come from a place of self-love. Because nobody's going to love you more than you love yourself.
Yes.
So I think, making sure you're in a place where you stand strong with who you are is so important. And getting mental health support, and and I want to add a huge caveat here, right? Like the mental health that we're both talking about is pretty like day-to-day mental health issues. Like both of us are blessed. We haven't experienced anything really major. But what we really want to highlight is that it doesn't have to be major. Like if you're just a normal, average, happy person going through life, therapy might still be for you, because it's just that moment when things are calm and things are good to take a look at yourself, so that when things do get rocky, whether it's moving a country or something big happening in your life, you're actually prepared with, like you said, the toolkits. So when you face them, you're ready. So I think there is no wrong time to start therapy. Manima and I have both been doing it, and it's not like we would have probably been fine without it. Maybe to some degree.
But we are better with it.
But we're much better because of it, right? So definitely, And as someone who has been married for 6 years, I would definitely say take your partners into therapy, your fiance, boyfriend, husband, like whatever stage of relationship you may be in. It's just a great idea to level set, understand how you communicate, get through like big topics, figure out your approach on.
I think it's also a great thing for families to do. Families that are going through something very serious, like if they're suffering through a separation or a loss or anything, any issue for that matter, therapy can be a great, I don't call a solution, but it can be a great way to figure out things and be in a better place, especially mentally.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And I think for kids, parents, anyone who's going through something difficult,
I'm just saying therapy is for everyone.
It's for everyone. I think if there was one thing that I think there's just a long way to go is representation in therapists. I think especially if you think about younger people, immigrants, all of these people want to talk to somebody who can at least understand or empathize with the experience that they've had. And I think that's still missing. Like, there's not a lot of therapists in our area, and we live in a very Indian, South Asian area that are South Asian. And I imagine that's very similar for different minority groups, people of color, right? LGBTQIA. Like, these are I would recommend, if anyone here is listening to this, they're young, they're figuring out their career choices, consider that, because I think that representation is so important. We're starting to see it in TV. We're starting to see different colors and shapes and sizes. And now I think we need to see it in our professionals so that we can be listened to and heard in a way that we need to be listened to and heard. Do you have any tips in terms of approaching psychology or approaching therapy?
I don't really have tips per se. I might talk after you talked your bit.
Yeah, I mean, the only tip I would have, I mean, of course, approach it with an open heart and acceptance and all of that, which we talked about. But in terms of finding a therapist, I would say that it's important to find the right fit. This is somebody you're going to be opening your heart to, and there's different personality types. And it's not that anyone is less professional than the other. But I actually went through about 4 therapists before I found one that I actually liked and I could talk to and I had a good connection with. And when I approached that 4th therapist, I told that therapist in the first session, I said, this is like a trial session for both of us. I need to find a good fit because I've had some not so great experiences, right? So the other tip, I guess, is if you do go to a therapist and you feel awkward about it or something isn't right, it's not that therapy is wrong. It's probably that person isn't a right fit for you.
Yeah.
Like, I have been to a couple of therapists, so I can speak to some experiences, but one was very alarmist. They were just like, everything was extreme. And it was like, you're going through this. It's like, well, you should make sure that you do this extreme thing for anxiety disorder. And it just actually made me very stressed.
Oh.
And there was another therapist I went to. She was a heavy note taker.
Oh my God.
To the point that there was no eye contact during our conversation. So I would be talking and she's like, oh, don't mind me. I'm just taking notes. But I just felt like I was just talking to a wall, and then she would look at her notes and give me a feedback and have a conversation, but I just was not feeling heard. I didn't feel a good connection. So those are probably just not good fits for you. Maybe that's exactly what you need. Maybe you are in an extreme situation and you need somebody who's going to give you extreme solutions.
That might work for you.
That might really work for you if you're going through something really dramatic and you need somebody who's going to put you into shape. Or if you're okay with somebody writing notes while you're talking to them.
If that makes you feel that you can open up more, then that's for you.
Like maybe the eye contact is uncomfortable for you. So it's really like, take your time, find one. It's expensive, I know, right? Like, therapy here can be super expensive, hundreds of dollars an hour. And it's frustrating to find the right one, but I think it's like, you think about it like a family doctor or a surgeon, right? Like, you wouldn't think twice if you needed surgery and you had to find the right surgeon. So I think you need to give it the same importance, and that's what I would recommend.
So for me, I've been to one therapist and that was the right fit. The first fit was the right fit. I've heard about her through someone from social media, and I went and took one session. I felt really good. As you said, you will know when you're talking, you're pouring your heart out, when you are at the most vulnerable state and you're still comfortable. I think you know that I think the space is right for me. So that happened with me. And after that, after coming here to Toronto, I think this is a major difference I've seen in India, in Indian education system, and here the university I'm studying at, they have this online mental health and counseling sessions. You can Any student can book an appointment for free and talk to a professional.
Love
Ask
that.
ask about India.
No.
I have not seen a college leave out college. No university has this. There's no department of mental health. I mean, now I'm coming to realize that, and that's a huge disparity between both these.
And it's interesting because the Indian education system is very competitive.
It is.
So it would probably really benefit
and
from these
they
types
really
of-
need it.
They really need it,
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good to see that the world is progressing. I think eventually
Yeah.
everyone should catch up. So how does the, like, you've just recently gone through this therapy, you've moved to Canada. How does this impact your creativity?
The more clutter I have in my mind, the more unproductive I am. So therapy, in a way, decluttered my mind, and now I know I'm not there yet. I am still dealing with my issues, but at least I know what my issues are and I'm dealing with it. So it's like I do not have to worry a lot about my issues. There's less clutter, so there's room for more productivity and more creativity.
I agree 100%. I think it's like all about the space.
Yeah.
When you are in a calmer state of mind, there is more space to live creatively, to be creatively, to even
Yeah.
be mindful of that creativity.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because with that space comes mindfulness. And to get to that space, you also need mindfulness. You need to be mindful of the clutter to create the space. And then once you have the space, you can be mindful of how you choose to use it. So yeah, for me, creativity and mental health go hand in hand. I know for a fact when I am painting, I never paint sad or upset or angry.
okay.
So if that means I'm having a bad day and I am going to wait until tomorrow, right? Like, especially when I'm doing client work and stuff like that, I really want to put good energy into it and I want to feel good energy back, right? Like smaller creative projects, yes, all moods, but painting, yeah, I like to be in a calm space because I flow freely. My paintings are better because of it. And I feel like that energy matters. And yeah, I think therapy is a huge help in making me feel that peace and go on. Therapy and meditation, different episode. Because I think the biggest declutter I had of my brain was through meditation. But therapy has been a really big supplementing factor for me.
Amazing. So one more thing I want to mention here is before therapy, you asked me what's the change I've seen, right? So before therapy, I was a person who created a lot of drama.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, for every single thing. I would get emotional, I would storm out, or I would just have a major, huge outburst, just create a drama. I don't know, I shouldn't be saying that about myself, I guess. Okay, let's just cut down the word drama, but I was that reactive person.
Wow. And I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, I was. There were some pretty huge public outbursts I had.
Wow.
And then the professional setup.
Really?
For more than 2 times, like multiple times.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
if I look back and think about those incidents now, I am embarrassed a bit. But still, that was who I am, so I just need to
I don't
accept
think
that. That's okay.
I actually think you should look back and see the growth. Right?
Yeah, the
'Cause
trajectory.
The trajectory, yeah.
So now, after therapy, I think I've become more composed and calm person. I think before reacting. So that's the huge difference.
That's
I have.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me that change came through a meditation workshop I did. But I have been doing therapy before and after, and I think that just helps me maintain a better state. I still can be reactive. I have my moments with family mostly.
Yeah, that's
but
that's always there.
yeah, that's
for a
always
bit.
there. But yeah, definitely, in a personal, professional setting, I have a very different approach, and it helps.
Yeah.
I think if we were to conclude today's episode, mental health is so crucial. It's as, if not more important than physical health. And I think we need to trust our professionals.
Yes.
Find one that fits you. Allow yourself to vent. Allow yourself that feeling of self-love. Allow yourself to understand your patterns. And let that be a gift you give to your family or your children.
The next
generation. Like, let this be okay. And I think everyone will benefit from therapy. Everyone.
Yeah. Don't let it pass on to your next generation. Don't let it become this transgenerational trauma you're gonna give your next generations or further generations. I think that's what we all millennials are actually
trying
dealing
to do
with, and come out of that transgenerational trauma. That's an entirely big topic which we need a whole another episode for.
Multiple, yeah. But no, I think that's so right? Like, we really need to start breaking the negative cycles.
Yes.
And it is up to us. It's a big burden. It can be a lot, but let's be the people to break those cycles, change the narrative, and get everyone therapy. And because this is a creativity podcast, I think that if you are on a creative path, if you're trying to be more creative, then allow therapy into your life. And we'll do a full episode on meditation. But, allow yourself those moments to be mindful and give yourself the space so you can find some of that childhood, playful, creative energy creep back in.
To pursue anything you want. Yeah, well, that was a bit of a heavy episode because it was like revisiting your therapy days.
Yeah, and just thinking about, what brought us to therapy. It's a lot. So thank you for joining us on this episode. If you want to chat with us about anything, continue the conversation, you can find us on Instagram. You can find Maunima at...
It's Maunima.
You can find me at Shree's Arts. And you can also comment down below if you're listening to us on YouTube, but make sure to follow us on anywhere where you listen to podcasts.
Awesome.
See you in the next episode.
Yes, and please do not forget to take care of your mental health.